Hello, welcome to season 2 of Shigutocast. I am your temporary co-host, Tobe, filling in for Operator Beast, and supposed to be joining us is Mr. Wiggs, aka Salam, but I would assume he's off working on Zaibatsu or something cool like that. But I guess we should explain a little bit. So Operator Beast left for army duties back in September, I believe. So hopefully he'll be back sometime this summer to get back behind the wheel and take things from here. But until he's back, we're just gonna try some new things out over the next few months and keep the cameras rolling, keep things moving. But nonetheless, with us today, we have the founder of Nightcycle Studios, creator of over 100 games, the corn god himself, Deadly Pineapple, Bro Rubik, Bloomington's own CJ Oyer. Pleasure to have you, man. How you doing?
I appreciate the Lord of the Rings-esque long titles. Very regal. Great to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the story behind the corn thing? Because I've been following you on Twitter for a while now, and your profile picture's always got some corn business.
Yeah. So I guess it started off as like it's not an inside joke because like everyone knew it, but back in 2019, December 2019, I was in an airport, and while I was there, I saw this popcorn brand called, it was like Hoosier Popcorn or something. I looked at it, and I'm a person who generally wears a considerable amount of flannel, as most Indiana people. So I realized, wait a second, the not only is he wearing flannel, but his face kind of looks like mine. So I made I sent a few joke text messages to my friends. They thought it was funny. So then I posted it on Twitter, and I said, if this gets 50 likes or something, I'll make it my my profile picture for all of 2020. And so and then I did for 11 of the 12 months. In the final month, I had that like documentary thing come out, and I was like, I don't want people to just see corn when they go to my profile. It seems like a bad introduction. So I made a Photoshop version of a photo of me with sort of the same color grading and corn background of the original one, just to like stay true to the spirit. And community calls me the Corn Lord or something like that. Corn God.
Yeah, you're like the unofficial face of Hoosier Popcorn.
Yeah, I hope we do a brand deal or something. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah. Have you ever touched base with them at all? Like, is it a local brand? Or?
It is definitely a local brand, but I haven't reached out to them because I didn't want them to be like, hey, copyright infringement. Like I just because obviously I never like monetized with it or anything, so I'm probably fine. But all the same, using another company's logo as your profile picture, it's not the best. It's not the safest move. Yeah, but like in general, I hope at some point we do get to meet up, and I'll be like, hey, let's do a crossover. Let me put popcorn in my game.
Popcorn collab.
Yeah.
So we got some questions for you, some questions of our own, and then we'll get into some Reddit questions a bit later. So next week we'll be having HD Studios, aka Oblivious HD and Forever HD. So if you guys want to drop a question for them, just head over to reddit.com/r/Shiguto. Otherwise, we'll just hop straight into it. So I really wanted to talk about your origins on the platform a bit, because you actually have kind of a unique story about getting into Roblox. I believe your dad introduced it to you, right?
Yeah. So I was always a creative kid. Loved playing with Legos, all of that. And my parents were always trying to find new ways for me to like express myself and grow in educational ways. And so at one point, my dad found Roblox, and they're like, "Hey, there's this game. It's kind of like virtual Legos." And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." I thought the characters were weird looking. I remember that much. It was just like, why are they all boxes? So I made my account, opened up Studio, made this little couch thing. I pressed play, and it all just fell apart because I hadn't anchored it. So I was like, ugh, my couch. I hate this. And so then I decided to quit and never come back, and that was the end of the story.
Oh.
No, obviously I got over my my indignation and tried again, learned how to anchor parts, and made this treehouse thing. It's more of a cerebral piece. It didn't really look that much like a tree. And I deleted the ground, and then there's a skyscraper, and I gave everyone these little like ice shooting abilities, and it was a truly bizarre experience. But yeah, I went on to make a bunch of games, and honestly, I know with Shiguto, y'all are a bunch of very talented artists and make a lot of showcase type games and very immersive ones. For like my first like 1 or 2 years, most of my games were showcases of sorts. Not good ones, but that was the underlying style. Like make this world that I could just go into, and oftentimes they're based off of movies and such that I loved. And yeah, it's just it was a great find. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, we've all been through that anchoring lesson at least once.
Oh yeah,
Especially as rookies to studio, it's a pretty humbling experience.
Yeah.
So did you immediately hop into development? You didn't start out playing games?
I'm trying to think back. I can't guarantee that like the first. I know that by the first within the first day I was in studio. I don't remember if it was the exact first thing I did. I don't remember how they downloaded the software back then. Nowadays you have to actually to enter a game for it to download. So I think like my first game I have like the in terms of like the first one I visited, I have like very few memories of it. I remember this floating platform in the sky and this little gate, like this little railing that I was able to walk along. But I don't remember much beyond that. It didn't leave as much of an impression on me as my poor couch. But yeah, no, I probably spent most of my time building on the side. I did play games. I remember was it Lucky Glue's 8's aircraft carrier? It was this aircraft carrier game where you could fly around you could have little dogfights in these planes and blow up a tower, and it was just fun. And I played that a lot. I made a few friends in that, but I don't remember much of my earlier Roblox years. I feel like most of it was just creating stuff because that's what I enjoyed the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole period of time is kind of a blur now. I think we joined in the same year actually. So
really?
We probably played the same games coming up. Yeah. 2009, right?
2008 for me. Yeah,
these old waiters, man. I don't know. I'm always trying to edge people out with how much longer I've spent on here than them, so you got me.
Yeah, no, I don't understand people who are like, we need to go back to 08 Roblox. That's where it was at. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like, I enjoy 70s music so much. I wish I was born in the 70s.
Yeah, do you? Yeah, it's I've heard that. Pre-internet, not for me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So since your dad introduced it to you, like for me, my kind of origin story is that I had a group of friends introduce it to me, and we used to play together. So, were you like at all kind of an outlier at your school with Roblox?
Oh yeah.
Did you have people to learn from? Learn with?
Honestly, I'm trying to think. The first time I infected people with it, if that counts. Like there would be friends and such who I wanted to, I guess, play the game with me, but I don't recall ever having someone who already played it like bump into me. So I guess I was the first one in my area, in my class. I know I told people about it, but really I think my siblings and cousins were the first ones who I actually played with in person. I'm trying to think. I might not have met like someone like a Roblox person in the wild until like my first RDC in 2015. So I guess that's not in the wild. It's like I just didn't meet people. I guess I didn't ask too much because I think it burnt me out. I was like, I'd always ask them like, "Hey, you play Roblox?" And they'd be like, "No," and I'm like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, no, that was the usual answer. So you've been going to RDC since 2015 then?
Not continuously. I feel like I alternate the years. I went in 2015. I did not go in 2016. I went in 2017 and in 2018, but then I didn't go in 2019, which was weird because I was an intern in 2019. So, and then I went in 2020 kind of, which was virtual. So, I mean, that's a lot easier. I believe I'm going to 2021. They haven't announced the tickets yet, I don't think. But I mean, I'm hoping they give me a panel. That'd be fun. I want to be on a panel at some point again. I gave a presentation in 2017, and that was fun. But like, I'm always starting to worry if I imagined it. My friends, like fellow interns at the time, they promised me it happened. I cannot find a single bit of digital evidence other than the fact that I have some slides from it. But like, I gave a presentation in 2017, and I'm begging you to believe me because I cannot prove it.
Oh man, that's painful.
Oh yeah. I want to look back. I want to be like, I was so cool back then. What happened?
So if you've been going since 2015, like that's kind of an interesting year to have started going, because that was one of those like key turning point years for Roblox, I think, where things really started to take off. So like, how have you seen the events change and progress over the last few years?
Well, I guess looking back, so I went to the RDC East, and back then they split the US one into East and then like obviously the California one. And so 2015 one was in Georgia. I think at its core it's very similar because across all the RDCs, the best part is just beginning to meet other developers. Like that's really it, because you go from like a world where you're kind of isolated. Like you can talk to people about Roblox and even other game developers. Like when I was in college with game development, they wouldn't get it. They'd know about Roblox. A lot of them would write it off as a kid's thing, but nobody would get it, even if they tried. And but being able to go into a room where it's just like, yes, these are my people. I could tell them the most obscure Roblox things, and they just get it. I felt like I belonged. It's great. I think that's the most compelling aspect to me, and I really didn't get that in the digital one, which is a shame. But I mean, also there's a reason they have it in person. Nobody was expecting it to be the same experience. But in terms of the actual format of it, I think the biggest changes have been in the actual like presentation information stuff. I know in 2019 they had like these tracks that I think were pretty nice. They seem to be pivoting a little bit more towards panels in recent years, which I think is good, since that you get multiple viewpoints on things rather than just one person lecturing about a topic they may or may not be qualified to talk about. Which, by the way, in case you're wondering, my 2017 talk, looking back, it's so surface level. It's so like basic. It is, hey, if someone plays your game and gives you feedback, you should consider changing your game in reflection of that feedback. Like stuff has evolved since then. But like all of it was very surface level, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's like throwing shade at it, but like I think the types of developers who were attending back then, the skill level skewed lower. Like I feel like every year the actual talent of people there, like the people are just so much more talented in the modern day RDCs. Like back in 2015, everyone there had a kind of had this sort of like teenage hacker vibe where like we're all just kind of doing stuff chaotically, and most of our stuff worked as more from miracles rather than any particular coding standards. It was just I'm not sure if that was because Roblox itself was less technically advanced. Like filtering enabled was a thing, but it wasn't really pushed as much back then. Like I remember I released a game in 2015 which wasn't filtering enabled, and it got to the front page. Like it just was not as big of a thing. And I mean, a client server separation is a pretty standard technical thing. So I'm guessing that just the people who were skilled enough to do more advanced stuff were going to Unity, and the people who obviously were still amateurs like me, well, that was the place to be. And so yeah, I think definitely just it's gotten more professional. It's gotten the people there, they're starting to sound less like Robloxians, it's starting to sound more like game devs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like as someone who's really setting their sights on going to one of these in the future, that's all really reassuring to hear. So speaking of meeting other people on the platform, you've done 2 internships now at Roblox, and you said your experience there was like every good thing about the dev forum amplified. So could you maybe tell us a bit about more about that experience for you and what it was like. Did you have a chance to go and meet anyone in specific that you've been really
Oh
looking up
yeah,
to over the years?
yeah. Oh yeah. No, the 2017 and 2019. Those are my two internships. I was an accelerator for both. In my first internship, I actually made my most successful game, Superhero Life 2, at least in terms of visits. I think Superhero Life 3 has surpassed it in earnings. But the actual experience of just going into that internship for the first time, I actually, this guy, busy city guy, I know him as Curtis. He was actually rooming with me at the time for the first few weeks. He's currently a Roblox admin, so shout out, hey Curtis, how's it going? If he's watching. But I got to meet Curtis, who I got along very well with. But we talked about a ton of Roblox stuff. We had a lot in common. He's from Wisconsin, so Indiana, Wisconsin, similar culture, similar sense of humor. And so it was good to have a friend from day one. So yeah, I walked in there. All of a sudden I was in a room with people who had been visited and played so much more than me. I think the biggest names at the time in my internship they arrived in chunks. The first chunk arrived. Obviously, I was in the first wave. The second wave arrived after that, and then I think Andrew Berza he arrived on a week after that. If I recall, and so
Just by himself?
yeah, I think there was a reason for it. I think he was like just turning 18 or something, and they didn't want to reject him for a week of him not being 18. But I think that's it.
Just the way you said it was so stirring. And then Andrew Beretta showed up.
Yeah, he's in a league of his own.
Carried in like a pharaoh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he is honestly of like all of the community members. I'd say Bereza is probably he doesn't have a game design degree. He doesn't but also he doesn't need one, because everything I learned as a game design student, he seems to already know, and he's a very talented developer. So I look forward to seeing more of his projects. But
oh yeah,
and
definitely.
Obviously that's probably no surprise to people. Vesteria, that mining game. He made this cool one where players are building stuff recently. So yeah, I think so he was obviously very talented, but also some other great people there that I met. I met Sim Builder. He was there. Now Do the Harlem Shake. He was there. Both these people obviously very nice. In fact, I think Eric, Now Do the Harlem Shake. He is one of the most fun people to hang out with. He is just so friendly and such such an infectious laughter. Definitely was looking forward to seeing him again last RDC, but COVID. And yeah, let's see. I met this one's probably something which he wouldn't really get to appreciate at the time, but you've heard of Heroes of Roblox here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they were a massive game, and still have a considerable following. The one, I'm not trying to throw shade. It's this beautifully polished superhero game, and honestly, for the longest time, I viewed it as my only real competitor, because I made a series called Superhero Life, which is all about making your own superhero, and they made Heroes of Roblox, which was taking these handcrafted, pre-made superheroes and going. My game was open world and unstructured. Theirs were these linear missions, and so it was very much just the same genre but opposite approaches. It almost it was like a Cold War type situation, like communism versus capitalism, all these. Yeah, it was just such dramatically different ways of accomplishing a similar goal, and honestly, I think that they are an excellent example of a game which deserves better, because they obviously they went with the linear story route, and that allowed them to make much more polished individual experiences. But as they came to learn, continuing to pump that stuff out is very draining, and you lose a lot of momentum. And story games in general are just a very difficult thing to keep running. And so I think in the long term, my game won out just because it was able to. I didn't have to keep updating it for it to be fun because it was open world, and most of the fun came from just people talking with each other, and that doesn't really get old. But it was funny just because right next to me, like in the office, would be like the head developer, Insanely Luke, of Heroes of Robloxia, and I'd be here making Superhero Life 2, and so we like there was always a bit of a rivalry. I remember. I remember being annoyed at the time that they got this like Spider-Man crossover deal or something, which I was I wanted that.
Wow.
But obviously, it's an amazing game, and they deserve all the toys and all that stuff. And it's just, if anyone ever asks me, should I make a story mode game, I will tell them only if you really want to and are okay with not making as much money. Know your future. Know that this is not going to be a sustainable route for business wise.
Of course, yeah. But it sounds like it's a pretty healthy rivalry you guys had, right?
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Like you're motivating each other a little bit.
Oh yeah, no. We actually did a game together soon after. We did while we were there, we did a side project called Night of the Werewolf, which also got a toy. Yeah, and where I consider him a friend, and I believe he considers me one. We've hung out multiple times outside of Roblox, and he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So speaking of games you've worked on, we know game development wasn't always your goal. You wanted to be a pastor briefly in high school.
Yeah.
And then you studied liberal arts for a bit in university. So what was the moment where you decided that this is something you wanted to pursue full time?
I was a creative kid, as you know. So I liked making stuff. For a while, it was kind of up in the air what I'd actually do. First fit seemed to be an architect because that seemed the best way for me to get like sort of a creative building as a real job. That eventually evolved though into it didn't evolve. It took a huge like a huge diversion for when I wanted to be a pastor for about 2 to 3 years. And in fact, that's actually where I got my username Bro Rubik. I went to this pastor camp for a week or two. I was a Lutheran at the time, and they're the people who like originally broke off from the Catholic Church, like first Protestant Reformation branch. And because of that, because they're so close to, I guess, Catholics in origin, there's a lot like the church that I was staying at for those weeks was it was very Catholic. It looked very Catholic. It had all these beautiful stone buildings and all these beautiful artworks everywhere, but we're not Catholic. So as a bunch of ironic teenagers, we started ironically calling each other brother, like we were Catholic monks. Yeah. So I was like, Brother John, Brother Steve, and they're like, hello, Brother Christopher. and though eventually we got more absurd and started replacing names with traits about the other person. Like I'm trying to remember some of the other ones, but I know that at the time my big defining character trait was not Roblox development, but rather I could solve a Rubik's Cube in like 30 seconds. Still can. Actually, I have one on my desk. I just something to toy with while I'm thinking. And I can't do it in 30 seconds anymore. I haven't been speed cubing for a while, but
out of the game for too long.
Yeah. I'm out of shape. I need like that. It's like in like the Rocky movies or something, like just when they'll do like one at the very end when he's old and like training the next generation. I'll be training someone. I'll be training up my Apollo Creed in speed cubing and like you can do this. But yeah, so they, as you may see where the story's going, they called me Bro Rubik's, or Brother Rubik's, and I liked it. And so around that time, I had made a new Roblox account because I wanted to start from scratch because I was having this little bit of identity crisis, and also I wanted to I'd been known on the previous one because when I started making stuff on Roblox, I made what I liked. I liked Star Wars, I liked Transformers, I liked superheroes, so I'd make those things on Roblox, and it wasn't monetized, so it was all fine. And but then Roblox monetized, and I started to have to worry about something called IP law, intellectual property. And stealing intellectual property is not a good thing. And honestly, I'm no lawyer, and in fact, I've still managed to mess up a few times. Like I didn't realize that using that like 3D like using 2D assets or something in your game that you had to that there was like their own ownership things, and so I had to like replace a bunch of assets in some of my more recent games, and it was just I wish that they taught us more about IP law on Roblox stuff, but obviously Roblox can't do that because if the second you take the responsibility of teaching people how to do something, you are now responsible for when they mess up, and so I get it, but as a kid they don't teach you about IP law. I made a bunch of games based in superheroes and that I didn't own, and people started expecting it from me. And at the same time, I started wondering, well, do they like my games? Do they like the superhero characters which I've stolen? And I didn't know. It was kind of causing me some stress because like I want to make something that I can be proud of, and so I started from scratch. I made a secret account. This one, and I called it Bro Rubik's. In fact, I think it was. I don't think I made it. I think it was an old alt account which I hadn't used in a while, but like it was unknown. So I named it Bro Rubik's, and I started making games. I attempted 3 different projects before releasing Superhero Life on the new account. Only one of those projects actually came to completion, So, but on my second released project, I hit it out of the park. Like I got to the front page. Superhero Life proved to be a very successful game and franchise in the long run. And it was very validating because I realized. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not lucky because obviously growing up with access to Roblox in a stable learning environment that allowed me to actually evolve my craft. Those are all very lucky things, but in terms of the actual getting from achieving Roblox success, it's a skill. You can master it. You can get better at it. And I had that skill, or at least some early version of it. And so I realized, okay, this is actually something I can keep on doing and I can get better at. And around that time, I realized that while I did obviously retain a desire to help people and I liked giving others guidance, pastor was not a good fit for me. My skills expanded beyond that. I was great at programming and digital visualization and systems and all that stuff. And that just, you didn't get that from being a pastor. So it was kind of an opportunity which I'd be better fit elsewhere. And so I pivoted to more of a general computer graphics engineering type thing. And I went to Purdue University where I got a scholarship there and got to go into their Polytechnics Institute as a computer graphics technology general major with specializations that shifted by the semester. My specialization started as I think it started as a virtual product integration, which is like converting blueprints into 3D models or something. I don't fully remember it. In fact, I suspect that might have been why they gave me the scholarship because I said I wanted to do that. And like, so I felt bad changing it later, but like, because no one did it because it was kind of a boring job from what I could tell. And, or at least people thought it was boring because no one was doing it. High paying though. So if you're looking out for a job, but I eventually realized, okay, I'm going to do something else. I went with game dev and then at the same time also co-majoring in a user and UX design, like UI and UX. So it just, Purdue ended up not being the best fit for me because it was a bunch of technical stuff. It's an engineering school. They teach you all about the tools you use to make stuff, but very little about the philosophy behind it. Like they'll tell you how to test that your car doesn't explode and can get certain aerodynamic qualities and all of that stuff. But they weren't teaching me what car looks good, what car will sell well, they weren't giving me the actual design aspects as much. And I think that and around that time I got my Roblox internship, and I realized at that Roblox internship I realized I want to do this for the rest of my life, and so I focused fully on game dev, and I transferred from Purdue to Indiana University, which was a much more design, like I guess soft sciences focused thing, a lot more psychology and philosophy rather than hard material sciences and engineering. And so while I was at IU, I was a game design major for about 2 years. So I was in college for 4 years. So but the problem is, in order to graduate with a game design major, I would need to be in that program for 3 years. So I'd have to be in college for 5 in total. And towards the end of my second year, I began to realize that the program, which started as very much you see, unlike Purdue, at IU, they put the design stuff first because they knew that your game doesn't have to work perfectly or be like perfectly coded to be fun. And so teaching us what fun was and how we could best create it in a game, well, they realized that was the more important thing to do because that's what sells the product. And I stand by that because, like, look at CD Projekt Red's recent Cyberpunk 2077, which I'm sure Shiguto is a lot of people in this community are very interested in that game and may have been disappointed. Despite the disappointment of all the bugs and some of the lackluster NPC design, it still had so many people playing it. And it has so many people just defending it to this day because it still, at its core, does succeed in that immersion, in making that fun escape experience. And I think that, so even if your game's a buggy mess, which a lot of my games are, to be honest, they're fun. And I think that as the IU program went forward, I began to realize, oh wait, we're starting to transfer away from the design stuff, which I didn't really know, towards the technical side of things, which I knew. Like I've been programming for almost a decade at that point, and so I realized, well, I don't want to do this for another year and a half. I just want to start making stuff, and it's not like a game design major carries that much weight, as it's still a fairly new category of major. It's not really a standard. There's not like a test you can take to license yourself as a game designer. Though obviously some are better than others, and I think mine would have held weight as it's a very good school with some very qualified people. Like the leader of the program, a guy named Mike Sellers, he basically invented like the MMO, I guess not invented. He transformed and pioneered and popularized a lot of stuff, a lot of core game genres in the 90s and today, like MMORPG design. For what I can tell, he is the most knowledgeable person on MMORPG design that I've found. And on top of that, he even got to work with. He was the lead designer for, I think, Sims 2. So like he very talented person, and it's a good degree. If you're in the Midwest, want to be a game designer, I recommend the IU game design program. 2 thumbs up. But it was very much geared towards people who had never been designers before, who never created games before. And so when they start focusing on the actual programming development stuff at the end, I just felt it no longer fit me. And so I got out with a 4-year degree in Bachelor of Liberal Studies. And yeah, so that was my path in career. I went and became an indie dev. I've been doing that for the last 6 months. And it's been great.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, that's really great to hear. And to go back on what you said a little bit, you were talking about how you're having some issues now with IP in your games, and
Yeah.
I've heard that that's actually a really common thing now, with a lot of the larger games. So if anybody out there is an IP attorney or knows someone who is and would be interested in giving a Roblox event coordinator talk, or hey, what am I saying? Come on the podcast. We'll do it here. Yeah, that'd be really interesting to have someone like that on and maybe learn a little bit from them.
For sure.
So yeah, speaking of the games you've made, which you've made quite a few of, over 100, even just with Nightcycle, you have quite a few under your belt.
Yeah.
So how long? I think 10, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Games? Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. It gets a little bit confusing because we'll do because at the end of the day, I am more or less Nightcycle Studios. Like there's some other contractors and developers like Riferian and even like as one of Shiguto's members, Ray, helped us out with one of our games, obviously, and so but at the end of the day, the most consistent person in Nightcycle Studios is me. So when I work with another studio, typically it's like the entire company joining with them. So it's
Right.
yeah, so somewhere between 10 and 14. I think, unless I included the ones that I made in the 10. All right, well, where's that tier list? I know I posted that somewhere.
Yeah, let's talk about this tier list for a bit.
All right, yeah. So looking at this list, it appears these are all like exclusively Nightcycle games. So these are the ones which were full. Oh wait, no, but Night of the Werewolf. Okay, yeah, no. So all of them except for Night of the Werewolf are exclusively in. Yeah. So the
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So but yeah, looking at that. Okay, so we have in first place we have Superhero Life 4 and Night Ships, which probably is a test to the fact that like an idea no idea survives implementation fully, because neither of those games have come out.
Right.
Night Ships might not come out for a long time, and Superhero Life 4 probably feels like it's never going to come out, but it will. It's so it's funny seeing the A tier with we see obviously some of the Superhero Life 2 recent entries. I'd say people generally in my community love Superhero Life 2 the most, with Superhero Life 3 being a little bit more divisive.
Okay.
Night of the Werewolf. Well, the thing is, like, beyond, I'd say, Superhero Life 2, and I guess to an extent, like, Deep Space Life and Mortal Metal had their own little fan bases. Most of my community members just sort of like, they check out a game, one of the other games, and they'll play like, oh, that was cool, and then never go back. So it says they are flops. But I liked them. And I think, considering how much time some of them took, I think they were fun. Like, if you look at the boat one, or the flying sand spaceship thing, or the let's see, or that little city thing in the corner. Well, the first two, those were actually game jam things. Like, I made them within 3 to 5 days. And the second one, I made it over a few weeks, but like I was also in school, so like I couldn't focus fully on it. So it was probably about a game jam sized thing. And so like they're considering the amount of visits they some of them have gotten. I think that they have succeeded in that sense. Like, I know, weirdly enough, some of my favorite games are actually my game jam ones, just because I get to enjoy like the I get to make something really quickly, and then I don't have, it doesn't cause me as much stress, because I can I Superhero Life 4. I love Superhero Life 4 right now. I'm working on it. I'm trying so many cool things. It is not going to be my favorite game on this list, and it's probably the most fun to make, but that's because it hasn't been released. The second you release it, and the second it's under the public eye, people actually are asking you to like fix things and improve it. And there's so many people on it, like, right? Like, there are thousands, I think like 40,000 people play games in the Superhero Life franchise on a daily basis. A stadium's worth of people every day looking at what you made years ago and judging it. And that is horrifying. Like, it is very stressful. And I feel like devs don't get to talk about it enough, but like it is a massive pressure when you think about it. So to an extent, I almost like distance myself from the games. Like, I think the second I release a game, its days are numbered, it seems. I'm trying to get better at that, because I think a lot of these games had more potential than they maybe got a chance to see implemented. Because I just like Superhero Life 2, like it probably could have been played. It probably could have been further built upon, but it was, the code on the back end was a mess, so I knew I needed to restart. And also, I was kind of stressed from it. Like, I didn't start. I worked on Superhero Life 2 post release for like 2 weeks. The last major update it got was like in 2017. It still gets played by tens of thousands of people a day, but like it hasn't been maintained in a way that you think a responsible game developer would. And because I'm not responsible. I'm not. That's the problem. I'm an amateur, and while I'm getting better at it, and I'm probably the most professional I've been in my career. It's still something which I struggle with, and I've been trying to put up the courage to make an update to Superhero Life 3, but just updating these games, it's very stressful. And so Superhero Life 2, it was pretty much done out the door, and then Superhero Life 3, I did a little bit better with that. I worked on it for about four months. So I built up some stamina, but then I was just done with it. Like, let me go. But once again, like both of these games, especially after doing DevSOS and like getting to help people fix their own games, I know how to fix these games. I know how to help them out. I know the things I could do. And like even just like if I spent a month working on Superhero Life 3, I could most certainly get it to outperform Superhero Life 2. Most certainly. Just like more players on it. Just I know that deep down that I could do that. And I know exactly what's wrong with it. I know how I could fix it. I see the map in front of me, but like it's terrifying. Like it's like you don't understand. I was getting hate mail for like weeks after I released the game because I released it and some people were disappointed. And like I probably could have better checked for it in pre-releasing it, but the reality is most people who bought paid access version of it before the free release were happy with it. And I learned since then that that's a cognitive bias, that when you pay for something, you're more likely to look at it favorably. You want to see you don't want to feel like you got suckered.
Yeah.
But like that didn't hold up, obviously, and there was a lot of backlash. And like to this day, people will just add me on my Discord to say your game sucks. And I'll be like, well, yeah, I messed it up. I'm sorry. And like just that, knowing that like thousands of people are thinking that, and that every day some of them will try to tell you it. It's so draining. And I think that's like that's the main limiting thing. And obviously, Superhero Life 4, I'm hoping for it to be a more positive experience. And so far, it has. But it's just there comes a time in any developer's life where what you can do and what you actually do is just a massive split. Like I'm not even talking about like what you hypothetically could do. Like I could do this. I am physically capable of doing it, but emotionally, no. It's like that. Like and in that sense, I guess I'm unpolished. I don't actually do my work as work. I do it as something that's fun, and I'm trying to get better at that, as I said. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of Roblox developers will find themselves in the same spot. One of the most common questions I get from people is, "How do you overcome lack of motivation?" And my response is usually some generic motivational stuff like, "Oh, take a break and then get back on the horse." But that's not what I do. I move on. I try something new, and it's because it's difficult. And I wish I had a clear fix, but it really does end up coming down to getting back on the horse sometimes. Like, sorry, Superhero Life 3. Instead of 2 weeks of post-release fixing and additions, I did 4 months. And for Superhero Life 4, I'm hoping to do years and really make the most of it. And so, like, there is growth, but I fully empathize with anyone out there who's like, I want to make this game, but I just can't. It's like, yeah, it's hard. People don't realize it's hard.
Yeah, and I think it's super crucial to recognize those shortcomings and try to adjust from them. But I did have a chance to play both the Superhero Lives, and I thought they were both amazing.
Hey, I appreciate it.
And my little brother's like a huge fan of both of them too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
it's surreal. You forget that like people are genuinely excited and like awestruck by you when like I mean you probably can guess by now, and I certainly know I'm just a person. So like the idea that there are people there who like are like fans of me, not just my games, but of me, it's always it's very humbling. And yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever fully come to terms with it.
So speaking a bit about how you allocate your time working on games. Last season we got to speak with a group called Sayonara Studios, who's working on a game called Astral Hearts. I don't know if you've had a chance to check that out, but it was a really ambitious project, but did appeal to a fairly niche audience, and they admitted that, and a lot of them were working on it for free. So what they did is they put aside a couple of months to create a more conventional game that could fund Astral Hearts. So it seems like that's becoming more common procedure with passion projects. I was wondering if that's at all relatable to you and the path you've taken with Nightcycle. Like, did Superhero Life walk so that night ships could run?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, I guess I have met a lot of developers who do that kind of thing where they're like, yeah, this game isn't really one I'd play, but I know it's going to succeed and I got to pay the bills. And like, to an extent, I can't really tell them they're wrong because we all got to pay our bills. And if they need to do this to get a more, to truly take advantage of that kind of, to really be able to flexibly create a great game, then I mean, hey, go for it. But that's never really been my approach. I've tried it to an extent. Like if you look at the tier list again, that City one at the bottom, that was very much me saying, making a simulator doesn't look too hard. I'm just gonna do that.
Right.
Yeah, and I did that, and it was harder than I thought. In fact, it's interesting because all the pieces there I think are fine. It's just it's so unbalanced that like the core loop is messed up. And I could probably, it's one of those things where I just want like one weekend, I just want to go through and like put some analytics up to it, see if I can get it, see if I can dev SOS it, get a little cash cow in the back. But I really haven't, that hasn't been my motivation. Like I do make superhero life games probably for financial reasons in combination with, I guess design goals, but like it's never a situation where I'm just like, okay, what's the fastest way I can make a buck? Because once again, as I said earlier, I'm not the most disciplined guy. And frankly, when I see a simulator game, I don't think, oh, those devs are hacks. I think they must be so bored because it can't be that interesting to make. And that's it to me. Like the reason I get to try so many cool things in my games is because frankly, I cannot imagine doing otherwise. I would be so bored going the normal tried and true route. And with that, like I want to make Superhero Life 4 amazing and next level because that is an interesting game for me to make. It is not a industry strategy. It is not the best use of my time probably. But I mean, at the end of my life, I would have rather spent my career enjoying it, like having been able to ideally pay the bills and actually walk away with I don't know, something I can be proud of. And I think, and that's what motivates me personally. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong if you do it a different way, but like that's what I found works for me. And I've been also lucky enough that there's a Venn diagram almost of things I like to do and things that are profitable. And it just so happens Superhero Life falls into both of those. So yeah, I'll make a Superhero Life game to pay the bills, but the way I make that Superhero Life game, that's all because I want to do it. That's all because I want to try this. And that's Superhero Life 4 now. It's using a bunch of custom avatars, and it uses full custom physics right now. Like I'm not even kidding. Like the characters are anchored, fully custom physics. And all of that stuff is obviously not necessary. Like I could have just used regular avatars, saved myself months of time. I didn't have to use custom physics, but for one, I think a little bit of like setting the groundwork for later stuff can allow me less pain in the future. But also, it's more fun to make custom physics. It's more fun to make a custom avatar system. I haven't done it before, and I'm enjoying it. And yeah, and so like a lot of that stuff is just driven in like would this make the game more fun? Because as a game designer, something I love the design aspects of creating a game, like making the game fun. Like when I say I'll do something because I want to do it, I also design games because I love designing games. So like my goal is to make the best game at the end of the day, but make it in a way which tries new stuff, which keeps me involved in the creation process. Because I think that also leads to a better game. I think I poured my heart and soul into most of these games, the exception of maybe that one City one. And granted, that is C tier, so they knew that. They knew I was not. They knew I was on autopilot.
Sniff that one out, huh?
Yeah. So yeah. Take away from this as you will. Are you going to? Maybe you're more disciplined than me, and whoever is listening to this, you can make it work. That's not me. I'm going to make a game which I enjoy making.
Awesome. Of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad you answered it like that, because that's a really solid answer. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that your approach to your games is so genuine and you put so much heart into it. Because as you said, you can totally tell when you're playing a game that the person making it was really excited about it and really wanted to deliver something special. So, yeah. And I don't think there's any other games I'd rather have my brother wasting 6 hours after school every day on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, jumping off of Sayonara Studios, the anime boys, I noticed you said you've been watching a lot of anime while you're developing, like
Yes.
Death Note, One Piece. I think you said Mob Psycho was your all-time favorite.
Yes, Mob Psycho, all-time favorite for sure.
So yeah. Do you think you'd be able to maybe break down top 3 lists for us, and maybe we could get some recommendations?
Oh yeah. So obviously at the top, I'd say Mob Psycho is my just go-to. This is this is an excellent anime. I'm trying to think of criticisms I have with it. Very few, if any. What I love the most about it is it is the best way I've been able to see sort of the emotional turmoil that I feel like many go through as a teenager, both the highs of it and the lows, and in a way that feels genuine. This isn't some the protagonist is overpowered, but they emotionally have the same vulnerabilities that everyone does. And I think, honestly, with maybe a few notable exceptions, I prefer anime which the characters feel real. It feels like they have depth, and I know that's not too crazy out there. I like it when the characters are well written, but I feel like a lot of anime gets away with trading in character development for style, doing the same character arc, same character motivations again and again, but the fights are different and cool in their own way. And I guess that's just not what motivates me as much. I am a person who considers themselves artistic. I like making things that look good. I didn't realize until I met Ryan how much, just as I guess I'm dedicated about game design and all of that, Ryan, and I'm guessing many other people in the server, are just obsessed with the art of visual creativity and of how to make 3D models look amazing and all that stuff. So in a sense, I feel like many of the people making manga, which is eventually turned into an anime, they're the people who are passionate about the way things look. And I don't know, I guess I'm just hoping that next time when they make an anime, I'm pretty sure that the guy who wrote Mob Psycho 100, he also made One Punch Man. From what I can tell, he's a very talented writer. So he might be an exceptional individual in general, but he's also not a good artist, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of the flip. It's like someone who went into it for the story aspects. But yeah, no, it's to anyone. I'm guessing, as this is Roblox, and if any of my community is watching, they're all mostly teenagers. If you ever feel angry and sad and all those emotions, but you don't know what to do, and you feel like you're a bit powerless, but also sometimes we'll go through days feeling like you're the most powerful, amazing person ever. Mob Psycho 100 is a great character study in that feels genuine while also very exciting and has some of the best action scenes I've seen in an anime. So they do all these crazy art style variations, and it's a very compelling watch. So that's number one. I won't spend as much time on fanboying out over the next two, but let's see. Number one is so clear. I feel like my numbers 2 through 3 will change by the season. Right now, I'm really enjoying ReZero. Yeah, I know that one's a little more divisive. No one like when you say ReZero, there's always like a mixed there's a mixed crowd of responses. I think when you say Mob Psycho 100, most people are just like, yeah, that's awesome. But ReZero, I think it's at the end of the day, I wasn't sure about it at first. I think the first few episodes were a bit of a drag, but the main character, they gave him that depth I love so much. They gave him conflicting character motivations in an actual arc. You can see them become a better person as the series goes along. But it also not repeating the same lesson over and over again. I feel like that's they don't have Bleach syndrome where I should have just started believing in my friends and trained more. No, You gotta you gotta give them a new direction to go that feels natural. And yeah, and I think just seeing all of that stuff happen in a show that also has a very exciting backdrop, obviously being set in a fantasy world. I think it is a worthy contribution to the isekai genre, which I know is very filled with shows that may not have been as much thought put into it. Also, I love time loop movies. I love that stuff. I maybe it's because the systems design part of me, where like I love seeing how in a single environment you can accomplish things in different ways and get different outcomes. Like it's almost like someone playing Hitman in an MMORPG, and also it's real life. And it's So ReZero, if that sounds interesting to you, odds are you've probably given it a shot already. Skip to like episode 4. I don't know. I feel like that once it gets to the mansion, that's when I can begin to enjoy some of the more character stuff. And
right.
But it's going to be hit or miss. I can't really guarantee this one to everyone is just like you're going to love this. Let's see. And I guess for number 3, it's like there's so many like good like 3-tier animes. Okay, actually, I got it. Dr. Stone. Dr. Stone, I'm happy to say, unlike the previous 2, it's not because they have excellent characters. It's because my favorite genre of game is survival crafting. And as far as I can tell, that's literally the reason I love the show. I will skip over the character stuff in that show to get to like the next like crafting quest. Like, yeah, we're going to unlock, like I guess also to anyone who doesn't know what Dr. Stone is, basically humanity, something weird happens. A bunch of people in humanity, a bunch of humans turn to stone, and then a few of them wake up thousands of years in the future, and it's basically Stone Age times again. And this one guy is really smart, remembers a bunch of science, and starts to try to rebuild civilization by reinventing technologies from scratch. And I just love that. Like I love how they like the large part of the first season is them trying to make an antibiotic to help someone who's sick. They also like they learn how to generate electricity. They make radios. They do all these cool things, and it's based on real science. And I just love that. And so I'm currently waiting for season 2 to end so that I can just binge it. But also like I might not even hold it. I might just watch it. Like I might cave and just watch it now. But it's a very good show. And if you like survival crafting, you'll probably like Dr. Stone.
Cool. Yeah, I might have to go check that out a bit. Yeah.
Good.
And you're free to talk about anime as much as you want here.
Oh, yeah.
This is a safe space.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to tell you that Superhero Life 4 is going to be the first game I've made with an anime audience in mind. Yeah.
Oh.
Already people can have like different eye textures. Like so they can like have one eye be like an inverse, like glowing and stuff, and do all that cool like anime things. And yeah, it's so fun. I want people to be able to make those kind of characters.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for the recommendations. I might have to check some of those out.
Actually. Oh yeah, no problem.
So we know you hosted briefly a series as a Roblox event organizer called Developer SOS.
Yes.
Where you would you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you would invite developers to send you their games, and then you and a esteemed panel of developers critique it down to the bone. So when you're doing that series, what was the most consistent advice you would find yourself giving? Like is there any blanket advice you could give to developers who are, they've got a game, but and in their mind it's very polished, but they're struggling to get it to be that front page game they want it to be?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked, because it keeps me up at night. Like it's a field that with some very simple rules that you can follow, but with like infinite depth. Like the reality is I can't tell them, like without looking at their game and without running in links, I can't tell them what's wrong with it. Like you have to do the steps to learn what's wrong with it. But those steps are pretty consistent. Like that's the thing which I learned. I was able to I got to talk to 4 different game devs. No, 5 different game. No, 4. Okay, so I got to talk to 4 different game devs across the 3 episodes of Dev SOS, with one of them between the time of entering their game and it winning, it appears their account got deleted, so I don't know how to reach them. or if they're still making games. So I hope they're doing all right. The other one, they moved on from the game, and I don't blame them. I obviously, as I said, games are tough, and so just but like working with the other ones, it's very clear. There are three metrics that you can use to determine a game, and I guess the at their core, the first one is the actual enjoyment of the game. This is where the core loop comes in. It's what allows people to have fun and enjoy that specific play session. The second one is a reason to come back. Like, can they have more fun if they come back? Whether it be because the same mechanic, tried and true, you can make more fun out of it. Like a soccer game, soccer isn't releasing a DLC anytime soon, but people still play it again and again because it's fun. It's a fairly systemic game. And so the fun is emergent from various underlying rules. However, a more story-based game, you can watch a movie a few times, but it's not as fun the second time you watch it. Unless it's like a really good movie, in which case, please recommend. But usually, you can't just infinitely rewatch a movie. You'll run out of things. You can play it in your head at some point. So retention is very important as well. And then finally, the one which I feel like a lot of developers get I guess so. The third category, I don't know. I'm tempted to say monetization, but honestly, it's not monetization. Monetizing games is actually really easy. If you get a successful game, there are so many ways to monetize it. It is obviously you can learn some tried and true tactics to maximize it, but you can get an average revenue per user of one Robux by just adding an in-game shop. Maybe even two if you have a shop, if you fill the shop with items people actually care about. It's a very forgiving field, monetization. But yeah, in fact, my big concern for y'all considering monetization and monetizing your games, whatever you do, don't mess up the core gameplay in order to monetize it. That's what Super Hero Life 3 did. It has now here's the thing. The average revenue per user for Super Hero Life 3 is, I think, 8 times as much as it was for Super Hero Life 2 when it first started. And removing the time it was paid access, I think it's still 3 to 4. It is a massively well monetized game. Except the thing is, it's not a well designed game because the monetization screwed up the core loop, and so the game isn't as fun unless you pay. That's bad. You're not supposed to do that because in a free to play game, the percent of the more people you get to go through your game, the more money you earn. And if you have to choose between it's so much easier to double the amount of people who play your game than it is to double your average revenue per user. It's monetization is a thing where it has a very easy to get to a base level, but moving it beyond that base level can be painful. And so my recommendation to people is always just get the core game right. If you really have an awesome core game, which is played by tens of thousands of people a day, and just can't figure out monetization, I'll help you out. Feel free to message me on the dev forum. But I promise you, it will not be a huge deal. It's a fairly quick fix most of the time. And it really gameplay is the big thing you need to focus on. And so that means the final category is not monetization, but it's onboarding. You can have a really fun game if people never learn how to play it. If they never get to find that fun, to get sunk into that core loop, then your game's in trouble. I think the game which I always think about with a tough learning curve is Eclipsis. You may have heard it. It's got a cult following, and that's usually how you know the onboarding's bad. It's when it has a cult following because people have to really dedicate themselves to actually find the fun. But once they find the fun, it's great. It's just people aren't able to access it. You have a huge boundary preventing most people from entering, and that takes a huge chunk of your potential audience out. And most games, if I had to choose one of these 3 categories for what is screwing up their game, most games are being destroyed by their onboarding. Because, everyone's played their game and realized it can be fun. that usually usually if your average play session duration has a high if it has a high standard deviation, if you run the analytics and you find that people are either leaving instantly or staying for 30 minutes, then your game has an onboarding problem. Or, asterisks, you have a very niche audience. But honestly, I feel like that's almost like, that doesn't happen as often. Like on Roblox, there are tens of millions of people who play on a daily basis. Your game, even if it has a niche audience of like, oh yeah, we do dark role plays, or oh, people who want to be animals, or oh, people who are hardcore platformers. That's still going to be like hundreds of thousands of people a day. Yeah, people like Cyberpunk. Like, look, your quote unquote niche audience is still going to be very massive. Like, look, like Cyberpunk, for instance. What was it, like the top selling game or like top concurrent game on Steam of all time? That quote unquote niche audience, while it may not be the one size fits all thing that like maybe an Adopt Me is, like you should be able to get 30 to 40,000 people a day with a niche audience. And so I don't know. Usually, unless you're like very stubborn with what you want your core loop to be, it's typically an onboarding thing when you see a high standard deviation. And really, that's what being a game designer is. It's looking at the data, looking at how your players are interacting with your game at a high level, and then figuring out where the glut is, where people are getting stuck, where people are failing to enjoy stuff, and why, for what reasons people are coming back. One of the best tools you can do is just run a basic correlative analysis on track some variables in your game, some basic behavioral variables. I have my own private tool, and if you want me to run a correlative analysis in your game and show you all my cool private like design tools and tricks, I mean, I'm available for hiring for contracting, but 35 an hour. that's my usual rate. But so I have my own tools, but they're not too difficult to make. Running a correlative analysis, just track player behavior, track things like when they spawn, what percent of them find, what percent of them leave the lobby, what percent of them die instantly in the core gameplay, or like track all these key gameplay events, and then just correlate them with your two golden metrics: retention and play duration. If a certain pathway, if whenever someone, if 90% of your audience isn't making it through the lobby, which a friend of mine who I was helping out with his own game, that's what was happening. They weren't escaping the lobby. The game itself could have been fine, but both players weren't getting into access. And because it was a social game, because most players weren't reaching the actual gameplay, the core gameplay was also being messed up because there weren't enough players. Like so in a sense, like noticing these gluts, noticing where you're losing all your players, that it really is just, that's the process of fixing a flopped game. It's finding those obstacles and just removing them or reducing them, finding a way around them for players. And that's your role as a designer. I'd say so. Onboarding, that's a big one, but even detecting obstacles in the core loop. So I've mentioned it a few times, and just to get people up to speed, the core loop is those actions you do in the moment. They're very low level. They're very the actual process, the actual going through an entire core loop can vary in time, but the core behaviors are typically very instant. Like my favorite one is Minecraft survival mode. I love it because the core loop's in the name. Mine, craft, survive. Those are the three core behaviors. Yeah. In that exact, at any moment of a Minecraft survival mode gameplay, you're doing one of those three things. You are either mining for resources, you are crafting something, whether it be making a base or trying to combine resources into new types of objects, or you're trying to survive. And so in its most vanilla gameplay, well, I know there might be internal motivations that make you want to explore things, but the reality is the core loop for that game is not exploring. It's Minecraft survive. Like that's the core loop.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, if anyone listening wants to learn a little bit more about core loops and stuff of the kind, you actually did a 2-hour talk recently that was basically centered around how to make a game fun. So if that's something that interests you, I would highly encourage checking it out because it was very insightful. But we got one more question of our own, and then gonna dive into some listener questions over on the Reddit. I was just doing my research. I was looking over a lot of your accolades and previous projects, and it's pretty apparent that you'd have the potential to ship or work on a game on a platform like Steam. So, what is it about Roblox to you that has kept you so engaged and so active on this platform?
I've made prototypes of games. So like functional games, not necessarily that fun, but they had their own moments, but they're prototypes. That's the point. I've made them on Unity. I've made them on Godot. They worked. I enjoyed getting to learn from them and the new different workflows you have to consider for those types of engines. But I think one considerable aspect which Roblox actually has a technical improvement upon other people is just how accessible it is. Like with Roblox, you can just press play and you're in. You don't got to download anything. You don't got to. You can be on. It can be on your phone. It can be on your computer, and also it has a massive audience. Like those things, while they probably don't get talked about too much, and you may not even consider them too much when making a game, they are massively important. They are core to Roblox's success, in my opinion. And I think they'll keep the game in a relatively untouched state. Like Google Stadia was basically them recognizing, oh wait, being able to instantly join a game is pretty good. In their case, though, they tried to backwards port existing games, and that's the problem. If you port a game that's 100 gigabytes and try to stream, like streaming every bit of the game fully computing it on the server and then sending it to a client, that's a pretty big. People who don't have as good internet might not be able to handle that. But Roblox games, because of their built from the ground up for streaming, well, they really do. They stay within the range of the capabilities of a streaming game. Like you don't get a AAA graphics, but you can consistently get these games which will pop up on your computer within 15 seconds. And that's on Indiana Wi-Fi speed. I'm sure for others it's a lot faster. Yeah, it's a very unique thing because I don't think there's a single other platform. I mean, maybe there's a small one, but there's not a single other major platform which is dedicated around streamable games, like games built from the ground up for streaming. I'm talking about like you can press play and not have to download anything. That doesn't exist anywhere else. And at least not in a compelling manner. Obviously, there will be Stadia will have its defenders, but as Stadia is no longer making its own games, I think, and we can know how Google handles its own sub-services, I think Stadia's days are numbered. But I genuinely believe in the concepts underlying it, that streaming gameplay is the future. So yeah, Roblox, it's in a great spot. And I recommend it to every one of my developer colleagues when I was a game developer, a game design major at IU. I recommend to all of them. So far, none of them have taken me up on that offer. And that's a shame, but also it's kind of insecurity because that's showing that like people don't jump into the ecosystem too often. A lot of the people in Roblox right now grew in the community. Like they played it first and then they became a dev. And even though I started out making stuff from the very start, I wasn't a dev at the start. I was a person who messed around in studio at the start. It was a sandbox game to me. It was not a professional development studio. It was me just doing stuff for fun. But me, along with many other devs, grew into it. And so I think that's also another aspect where just as YouTube and television shows are always going to be different. And you'll see some people try to jump over. You'll see a YouTuber try to jump over to mainstream TV and faceplant. You'll see a mainstream TV show jump over to YouTube and sometimes make it work, but it's a different experience. These aren't going to be AAA devs on Roblox. You don't got to worry about AAA studios coming in and taking a piece of the pie. It's not going to happen, especially with the amount of money Roblox gets pre-DevX. Like those margins don't work for AAA studios. In fact, margins in general don't work for AAA studios. They're kind of an anomaly. Like there's a reason so many story-driven single-player AAA games are console exclusives, because in order for that to be an economical decision, you almost have to have like a huge paycheck from Sony at the beginning. Like that, you're not gonna. That's not a sustainable business model. It's made for the spectacle. But for compelling indie-driven game dev, I think Roblox is almost locked in, just as YouTube is locked in as compelling small-time video developers, video creators making fresh content. And I don't think there's ever going to be a movie made in YouTube as like I don't think. Well, I'm sure there will be, and I'm sure there have been, but like that's never going to be the norm. Roblox is going to be this indie utopia where creative developers can make amazing, fresh, unique experiences that you can play instantly, oftentimes for zero money. It is a diamond in the internet that I am happy to see is continuing to grow. And I have full confidence that it'll continue to do amazing things.
Yeah, me too, man. And you know, it's really nice to hear someone explain why it doesn't really make a lot of sense for AAA developers
Yeah.
to jump into Roblox. Yeah, because that's something that was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are these guys not just coming on here and making?
Yeah.
When you
I'll
say,
see those dev forum posts of people just panicking, like it's the end. They're coming.
yeah, but I have seen a couple studios come in from the outside, but definitely no big recognizable names. So
Yeah.
it's cool to hear it explained that way.
Oh
And
yeah.
I guess I don't think I've ever heard Roblox explained as a streaming service as well, but that actually makes a lot of sense. You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
it's a one-time download, and then you've got access to millions of games.
Yeah. No, it's even like here's the thing: most Roblox games, they aren't like the best made games. Like let's be honest, these are not like a lot of games, especially. I mean, I should maybe I should be the one talking because my games are not well made. They Superhero Life 2, I didn't know what a core loop was at all. Superhero 3, I got the core loop wrong. like Superhero Life 1, I didn't even think about design. I just thought I'm gonna make a superhero game. Like that's about as much thought as I put into it, like, in the high level at least. These are not professional games, and that's fine because they're so easy. They're so quick to enter. There's no cost to the person, short of maybe like 30 seconds of time lost to try this game out. Like if you see a game that looks kind of shady, kind of iffy, kind of sus, like you're not going to buy it on Steam. You're not going to download it. Like no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
It's kind of a flashback to like those early mid 2000s Flash games.
oh yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, that it's a shame those disappeared, but I guess that also really points out how just a centralized market for this kind of stuff, and also the social aspects. I think we cannot underestimate how important it is that Roblox is a social game. Like this is a social platform. You do not have single player games on this platform. You could, and there are technically some, but where are they? They're not. Nobody's playing them because at the core of Roblox, it is also Facebook. Like it is a weird mix between YouTube and Facebook. It is very much like if actually YouTube is unfair. Twitch, because Twitch is social, or like one of those like Zoom watch party things. Like that. It's getting to or a Discord server meets YouTube. It's very much that social compelling gameplay that amplifies all the other strengths that Roblox has. Now, I don't say that this is as unique to Roblox. Massively multiplayer online role-playing games, MMORPGs, they are decades old, like 90s. Like yeah, there's like online multiplayer is fun. We like that. No, you're not going to blow anyone's mind with that. But I think it's very important to recognize there's a reason Roblox succeeds so much as it, because at its core is a very social fan base of kids, and kids are typically very social. It isn't until you really get to teenagers that they start getting a little bit more jaded and antisocial. But yeah, but kids, they love recess. They love hanging out with each other.
Before we let you go, and thank you again for coming.
Oh yeah, no problem. I had a great time.
Yeah, we're just gonna hop over to your question thread on r/Shiguto and
Sounds
see
good.
if we have
Yeah.
questions for you. Our first question is coming from Gordon Clerk 7418. But kind of the same question as the Wizard Dave below, which is since you've made so many games now, he's kind of curious like which one you maybe learned the most from, or like what the most important thing you learned was from all of these games.
That is a great question. Yeah, I think there's no obviously growth happens over a long period of time. And there will be times where I'll learn the information from a certain game dev experience, but then only really get to appreciate the wisdom of it later. But if I had to go for a single lesson, it would be Mortal Metal. Mortal Metal, if y'all don't know, was my 2019 accelerator game. I worked my butt off for that game. It was probably the hardest I've ever worked on anything in my life. I was honestly, I'm just feeling like emotions as I talk about it. Like it's just let's take a moment to contextualize it. It was 2019. I was game design major first semester. Just completed my first semester as a game design major. I've learned so much. I was so excited to make another great game. I applied for the Roblox internship, and I went through like 9 interviews. That year was particularly interview heavy, and I had to make like a new demo every week to get for each interview. And we started out pitching night ships. Interestingly enough, a spaceship game I was working on. But eventually they're like, "Well, we had a spaceship game last time, so give us another idea." You know, but they wanted to bring us on. We just needed to find the game which they wanted to bring us on for. And so eventually they were like, "Okay, we had this robot game which they seemed to really like." And in fact, on the outside, someone in the games industry actually reached out and like apparently we'd done a good job. We did a really good job pitching the game, and just out of the blue, they were like, "Hey, we can give you up to $250,000 in funding for this game."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and to this day, I still don't know if I should have taken it or not. Because on the one hand, I might have been more careful, but on the other hand, the lessons I learned from Mortal Metal would not have been fixed with a larger budget. But basically, I had all these people saying, "You are amazing at this. This is a great idea. You are going to make a great game." And obviously now if $250,000 possibly being worth $250,000 hashtag, like I was thinking, if they were being willing to pay me $250,000 for a large stake in the game, then I should hold on to as much of this as I can. like I don't want to. So I self-funded most of it, and I burnt through all of my savings. I was in the negative for like a year afterwards, and only just got enough money together to pay my taxes. And only in like the past few months have actually been like in a good financial spot. Like I was still reeling from Mortal Metal for the longest time. So as you may have guessed, Mortal Metal did horribly. It flopped. It face planted in the most dramatic sense. And the problem is there were some good ideas. There's to this day, I still show people like parts of the map which were made by Ray and another person, Drin Timmy. They're very talented builders. And I spared no expense in making the game. I hired I got a custom soundtrack. I hired an animator. I hired map artists. I brought Ryan officially on as a partner, though I think he might have been one from the beginning. I can't remember. I always handle the design stuff, but he was there from a fairly early stage. And I'm trying to think, like, what else did I spend on? I for a while I was buying custom clothing, but that didn't really work out. All these things that I thought would just catapult the game to the stratosphere. I thought all these mechanics, all these polished mechanics, will make this the best game I've ever made, and they didn't. It was a fairly polished game. It has some major performance issues, but like if you have a PC, you'll be fine. At the time, they were the best mechanics I'd ever made. I put a lot of effort into polishing them, and in order to make the game, and before I even went to the internship, I made 100-page design document, like 112, I think it was the final one, or 115. It kept shifting as I added to it, but like hundreds of pages of designs, all written by me, and I handled all the management. I hired all the contractors. I worked my butt off for this, and it failed. It was brutal. I was working at the start of the internship. I was working 50 to 60 hours a week because I was thinking I can be responsible. By the second half of the internship, I was working 100 hours a week. I was doing in the final 2 weeks of the internship. I did, I think like I think of every day, all the days in the week, I think I did an all-nighter every other day for about 2 weeks. And then like I went home and slept for like 5 hours. Like, let's see, like I gained 20 pounds. But then it's like, I did lose that, and then I gained it because of quarantine. Then I lost it because it's just like, weight's crazy. But point is stressful. And it was a brutal experience. And on top of that, like I was very fortunate at the time. I had some great people in my life helping me out. Obviously, the people at Roblox. I have yet to meet an intern who is just a bad person. There are some who I don't get along well with, but most of them are just really good, friendly people who will support you and are nice. And they supported me. And obviously, here's the thing. None of my bosses ever forced me to do this. Like, they'd be disappointed if I was behind schedule or something, but also they might not be. I was never behind schedule or anything because I was a madman. Like but they never ask you to do an all-nighter. They never ask you to stay later. And honestly, they shouldn't. That's being a bad producer if you happen to do that. And I was a bad producer. And obviously, at the time, I actually had a girlfriend for a few months there who was also very supportive, especially considering I was half dead most of the time and was never available except for like on the weekends for like a few hours. And it was chaotic and stressful, and it was one of the best summers of my life. And it was it's just, that's the craziness that is the Roblox internship. All the expectations, all of the feelings that you could be the next big dev, that you were meant for something, all of those emotions, all that potential, all the things you do to maximize your chances. And then just to have it fall apart, put up an advertisement, spend $35 to $50 a day on advertisements, and only get like 50 or 60 concurrents. Have game jams you've made in 3 days outperform and out-earn, even before considering the thousands you've spent of your own savings into it. To have that just fall apart and to just burn in front of you so publicly. Because at this point, every person you've ever respected knows about the game. You've hyped it on Twitter. You've advertised it. You've put GIFs that have gotten hundreds of likes. You've had idols you've looked up to for so long retweet it and say, this looks great. And it fails. And nothing prepares you for that. There's no comparable experience in my life to having something like that just so dreadfully burn. And like that really shook me for a long time. And honestly, even just recalling it, like you can probably tell, it's emotional. It's painful. Like it's very painful. But it was also one of the greatest lessons of my life. Now you're probably wondering, CJ, please, for the love of God, tell me what you learned from Mortal Metal so that I don't have to go through that horrible experience. Yeah. Please.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, come on, please.
Begging. Sounds horrible. If I were to do Mortal Metal again, my first step would have been just a gray box city with these giant, shapeless, like maybe like NPC characters that lumber around, and you shoot them. And then immediately, I would have done playtesting, and I would have recorded exactly how long they played the game. Ideally, I would have put it just enough like theming and background into it. Like maybe have one basic robot mesh, which I use for everything, and one basic city, like town, like building mesh, and use that for everything. Then I would have advertised it, maybe under a separate account, just so it doesn't actually tarnish the dislike. And then got some analytics, figured out, okay, people aren't ever getting past this one point. And then spend the rest of the summer just seeing if I can make that game fun. If I can make it fun, then that's great. But do not polish your game until it is ready to be polished. Do not hang up the furniture in your house until you know the foundation isn't going to collapse. Like you need to prioritize this stuff and know that your game at the end of the day, it'll succeed because of the core loop. It'll succeed because of the progression loop. It'll succeed because you have encapsulated a certain player motivation in which a large audience exists. It'll succeed because people can learn how to play your game before they get bored and leave. Those are the reasons your games succeed. it is not because you spent a lot on a builder or a UI artist or a musician. Those are the icing. You need the cake first. And yeah, so that was Mortal Metal. I don't get swept up in it. Don't think this is my chance to make the best game ever. Make a fun game. You can make it into the best game ever, but it's never going to be a best out of nothing. You will always have to improve it. So why wait? Why hold off on actually figuring out if you're in a good place? Why wait until you've already spent so much, after you've already locked yourself in? Because it isn't just, Mortal Metal wasn't just expensive, it was restrictive. Once I had spent all that money on a custom map, on these massive robots, on all of this stuff, it became a lot more difficult to make a new game out of it. I realized later on, people weren't finding the robots. People were getting lost in the base. People couldn't find the end game objective, so there wasn't really a progression loop. All of that stuff, when you have such a massive map, it's really difficult to escape that. Like, you've locked yourself in, you've cornered yourself. Like, yeah, I could now. Once again, I probably could salvage quite a few of Mortal Metal's assets and try again. But once again, remember, one of the most painful moments of my life. You think I could just pick up that game like nothing? Another reason, huge pivot, that I liked ReZero, talking about earlier. Because that dude failed, and it was painful, and he was broken for episodes on end. Now, obviously, Mortal Metal was not seeing all your friends die and then getting torn apart by horrible mythical beasts. I'm not at that level. I'm not that much of a drama queen. But, like, just getting to acknowledge, wow, that sucked, and I am hurt by it, and I can't do this anymore. Because sometimes there are going to be days like that. And, yeah, maybe you don't go back to that game. Maybe that is a game you close the book on. But learn your lessons. Don't do this to yourself again. Because that's the worst part. This is self-inflicted. Ray didn't mess up their work. Ryan didn't mess up his work. Beastlick didn't mess up the work. My animator friend Demi didn't mess up their work. I messed it up. I burned all of their work, essentially, because I didn't do my job, which was, at the end of the day, the designer. Like, yeah, I did my job as the programmer, but the designing job matters the most, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching it, because all of your work, all of you talented Shiguro artists, the game you work on thinking this will be the best game ever, honestly, that is out of your hands. It is going to be the design, the core loop of the game, which determines if your game is successful. And y'all have become artists. And so I think it's up to me to both improve my own skills so that the next time I hire a talented artist for a game, I know I am not throwing away such amazing assets. I'm not ruining, that I'm not burning such amazing contributions. And hopefully through teaching others, it'll help them too, and they won't have to go through the same thing. Because at the end of the day, it's on your shoulders. And it's a difficult job. And that is why it's so important that you figure it out, that you know that you are safe, that stuff is okay. It's like, this is like driving a car and never looking at the gas to know how much is left. You can't, if your tank is almost empty when you start, you need to know that. You need to check that. And continue with the driving metaphor. Imagine you're driving a car and only open your eyes after you've been driving for what, 12 weeks? That's essentially what I did. Yeah, like, I didn't actually verify the claims I was thinking. I was thinking, this game is going to be so fun because of these reasons. I didn't verify it. You have to verify this stuff, because if you don't, then you're essentially just driving your car out with your eyes closed. Maybe you're on a really straight road and your car is perfectly aligned and you can tell when your car is sort of getting on that little ridges that like makes the sound. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, most of the time though, you're probably just going to get in a crash and you're going to hurt someone, and it's probably going to be you. That's what I did. Yeah, so that is the lesson to learn from Mortal Metal. Fail fast. Find the fun in your game and chase it. Hold on to it. And yeah, I'm learning. The game I'm working on with that other company, we learned through a lot of analytics. We now know where the game's succeeding and where the game needs to be improved. And I'm confident that this game will only get better. And in fact, my career depends on it now. I'm starting to become the voice of like, here's how you do design on Roblox. And so like, I got to start being able to prove it. Like, yo, my last successful game was in 2017. It's like you're gonna start. People are gonna be like, "What? Why is this guy telling me about important game design again?" It's like he has a degree in something. Nah, like that's the thing. Like you need to be able to have. You need to be able to fail quickly, so you can point to this game and be like, "Yeah, this is a good game which I can build up." This is the point where you start opening the coin pouch, where you start bringing on the talented artisans to add cool assets to your game. And yeah, so that's game design for you. Fail quickly. And that's my most important lesson. And that was a very long answer. So thank you all for sticking with me.
Fail quickly. That's really sound advice.
Yeah, fail a lot quicker than I took to answer that question.
Yeah. Man, I wish I wrote some of that down. I'll have to go back and listen.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, please learn from that, not an internship that's face planted. Yeah.
Of course. We have a couple more questions. One
Sure.
from Standard Particular was wondering, what is your favorite food?
Okay, let me prepare the 30-minute speech on this topic. I'd probably say pizza. I don't know. I'm basic. I eat it a lot. I've yet to grow tired of it. I could probably eat it every day, except for the fact that my girlfriend does not like it as much. She likes it, but like once a week level, not once every. That's not the level that her or for I can tell most normal people can stand. Yeah,
well, we have an ongoing debate in Shigudo that is kind of spiraled out of.
Boy.
Oh yeah. Pineapples on pizza. Is it acceptable?
I was thinking it might be that. Yeah. It's a tough one. On the one hand, arguments about a definition of something are always just kind of like going to be a mess. I'm open to them. I don't like it. Let's just get out of the way. I don't like pineapple on pizza. I think it doesn't taste right, and I do not enjoy it. So, if in the sense that I would ever eat it as a pizza, no, I don't enjoy this. But, I mean, look at like what didn't original pizza like? What wasn't it like? The like bunch of weird different like bread and cheese combos. Like didn't they use like actual tomato slices and like original pizza is not modern pizza. So like to say that what we're eating and enjoying is quote unquote pizza is still kind of a stretch. So I don't know. It's like when you get when you start fighting in the dirt, everyone gets messy. I don't enjoy it. I
don't enjoy it. Half a point to the winning team.
Ooh.
10
points to Gryffindor.
Exactly. Just to finish off, that one Metro cop asks Pepsi or Coke.
I actually don't like either of them that much. I like Sprite.
Ooh.
Does that count? I guess that's a Coke product, so Coke. I don't like dark sodas, if that makes any sense. Like I don't know. What even is what's Coke made of? What's like what fruit is that? Is it just sugar? Is it molasses? Where's it come from? I know it's not the original ingredients. I don't know. Yeah, I like lemon lime soda and orange soda a lot. Those are my faves. I reject your question.
You like to be able to read the name of it and know what it is.
Yes. Yeah, I like knowing one of the many unintelligible ingredients in soda.
Right. Well, that's all our Reddit questions. That's it.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you,
CJ. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah. No, it was great. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing this go live.
Yeah, and I mean it's always nice to see your name pop up because you're always being discussed in such a positive light, and you've done a lot for others. So yeah, it was really nice to talk with you for a bit, and I definitely took away quite a bit from this. So
I'm having a great time, both just on this podcast with you, of course, and even just it's amazing that I can go from like. I don't know. I went from like the weird kid in like middle school and even high school for a lot of it to like the one who like ate in the library alone and like didn't really get people to like I don't know, people saying like you're always being discussed in such a positive light, and people saying like, "Whoa, it's CJR!" Like it's humbling. Like there's just you can't really. It's sort of like trying to imagine how many people were playing your game at one point. Like at a point, you just can't really appreciate. You just know this is good, and I'm happy. And so I thank you for, of course, allowing me to talk about this stuff. And I love getting to talk about this stuff, which is one of my most passionate areas of my life, and getting to share it with someone who's also had a similar experience, getting to grow up with the community and getting to build something of their own. And yeah, it's just great. And yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you. Yeah. So do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to throw out there?
I mean, like, I don't know. Most of my games, either they know them already or they don't. It's like and like the ones that I think are actually like I'd want people to try out aren't ready to be tried out. So I don't know. Follow me on Twitter. I'll like follow me on Twitter at CJ_Oyer. Also, I think at Nightcycle_LLC. Love those underscores. Is the company Twitter, but I retweet it all the time, so you can just find it from my personal one. Yeah. So just follow me. I post Medium articles about design, and I do the occasional lecture in the Roblox event thing. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Give me a follow. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, and thank you to everyone for listening to the comeback episode. And we will see you again next week. Peace.
All right. See ya.